있을까 baby 네 눈을 보면 알 수 있을까 너도 내 맘과 같았으면 좋겠어 네 조금 느린 발걸음이 나는 좋았어 barefoot barefoot take off your shoes and step on the bed barefoot barefoot 우린 같은 온도에 있어 푸른 네 바닷속은 얼마나 깊을까 바다가고 싶어
That's 32 divided by 4. We have 8 inches here. So with that 8 inches, you're going to add what you took out here. Remember that we took out 1.5 from here. So I'm going to add that 1.5 to my 8, making it 9.5. Then I'm still going to add my sewing allowance. I'm sewing this with quarter, so I'm taking quarter out of this side and quarter out of this side. That's ½ inch. So I'm going to add that ½ inch as my allowance for sewing this together. And then my sewing allowance on this side will be about 1 inch. So altogether now we have 11 for above my bust.
지금 우린 함께 할 수 있을까 baby 네 눈을 보면 알 수 있을까 너도 내 맘과 같았으면 좋겠어 네 조금 느린 발걸음이 나는 좋았어 barefoot barefoot take off your shoes and step on the bed barefoot barefoot 우린 같은 온도에 있어 푸른 네 바닷속은 얼마나 깊을까 바다 가고 싶어
Okay, to use in creating the other part, to use in creating the lining. Sorry, I'm going to take this apart to cut the lining out. You see why it's better to do this with the lining and then cut the fabric later. So but I'm doing the reverse. So this is what we have. Probably need to cut all this out. I'm talking too much. So with this now it depends on how some people still leave. You could just recreate this line with your extra allowance and cut, but I prefer having the line across along the bust line. That's where I prefer to have it at. Notice too that I have not cut out the neckline. I am going to do that when I have my yoke and everything together, as you will see later in the video. So for this one, I am going to cut a line through, because I don't know if you want this. Do I do both? Do I do both? The cup with this, with the line going across. I don't want the line to go straight. I want it to go across. So to do that, we're going to take note of where we had our bust point, which is this. Sorry, this is where we had our bust point, and I'm going to run that line through like this. And like this. This is how I'm going to run it through. Now that I have run it through like this, I am going to cut this into two. Okay, you know what? Let me do the two types. Let me do one on one side and do the other type on the other side. So I'm only going to cut through this one. I'm going to leave this as one piece. I'm leaving this as one piece, but I'm going to separate this. Now this is the top. Let's call this bottom left and bottom right. The right is the bigger part. So I'm going to do this now. So these are going to these three parts are going to make up the cup of the corset. 1, 2, 3. I'm not separating this one. And I'm going to recreate it now and put it back into the corset. So first, let's recreate the top part. That's this part. I am going to need to add an allowance here, which we'll use to join to this one, to these two. So I'm adding an allowance at the bottom. I'm recreating this exact piece but with extra quarter inch. I like doing my sewing with quarter inch. The less allowance you have, the more relaxed your sewing will be. And let me hold this down with pins. Okay, apart from that, I'm going to need to add half an inch here. So let me start over. I'm taking half an inch here, half an inch here. I'm adding half an inch, rather adding half an inch to this part, and then quarter of an inch to this part.
Take off your shoes and step on the bed. Barefoot 우린 같은 온도에 있어.
Next, I'll be doing this one. Now for this, it's important that I remember what side faces up and what side faces down. This is the part that faced up, so that you don't make any mistakes. I usually mark with arrows. This is the top part, so this is the part I'm going to attach to this. I'm going to add a quarter of an inch to the top, and I'm going to add half an inch to the bottom. Next, I'm doing this one. It's the smallest piece. Same thing. I'm not adding anything here because we already have our sewing allowance there. I'm only going to add what's hard? Add half an inch here and quarter of an inch up there. Let me pin it down to be safe. Now I'm going to add my half inch round here and quarter inch up there. Barefoot, take off your shoes and step on the bed. Okay, so just to be clear, now the pieces are all together, so I'm going to mark the center point. This is where this is. This is where they met initially, so that it's easy for me to get everything right back to where it was. So that's for the top part. Then for this part, I need to remember that this is the top basically, so I am going to mark this like this so that I remember that this one goes, the part that goes up, you can go. And then for this one, you remember to mark the part that goes up. I'm going to notch this so that when I'm done putting these pieces together, I know exactly where they meet on this piece. Okay, so after putting the pieces together, this is what we have. So these arrows help me remember which side each one is facing, and then with the help of this notching I did here, this marking, I know where these two will join to the top. So now we have this for one side. So I'm going to attach this to, where are you? Okay, so I'm going to attach this now to one side, which is this side, and then I'll come back to show you what it looks like. Okay, so I have put the pieces together and attached them to the body of the corset. I made sure this point and this point met. That helped guide me to make every other thing work. If you notice, I used the 1/4 inch allowance that I initially created on the sides of each one. Now if you notice, when I was adding to the sides of this ones, I added 1/2 inch. I added 1/4 to the top for this, then I added 1/2 inch to each of them, to this side, to this side, and to this side. Sorry, no, to this side, to this side, this side, and this side for each of them, because that 1/2 inch now is accommodating 1/4 inch from this one as the body of the corset, and 1/4 inch that will go out of this one. So this created both the allowance for this and for this, so that everything eventually blends into this. So that's for one side. You now have one side of the yoke. Now with that method, we're going to do something similar to what we did with these pieces. I need to take this apart. Okay, so I'm taking it apart. Now, just a reminder, this is side facing the bottom. This is the bottom. This is the bottom. So I'm going to take this piece now. Go back to my fabric. Please, if you're doing this, I suggest you do it on your lining first. Do it on your lining. I want to get everything right. You can loosen it. That's like take it apart, cut the pieces on your fabric, and then join everything back together. For this one, I'm not adding any allowance here because we already have 1/4 inch here. So I'm only going to add 1/2 inch around this point, and that's all. And then for this one, we are doing the same thing. We just have this, we have this already, so I'm just going to add my 1/2 inch to this side, and that's all. I'll take this out. I'm marking this to remind myself that this is facing the bottom. Marking this to remind myself that this is facing the bottom. Now I'm going to put these two pieces together. Now I have this. It has successfully been created, and I am now going to attach it to our corset. Okay, so same with the other one. I put this together according to the exact points where they meet, or give the tear. Well, I put them together at the exact points, and this is what we have. Both sides sewn with 1/4 inch, and now I can give my corset a shape.
내가 보고 싶을 때 또 네가 많이 아플 때 이 노래를 들어줘 절대 추운 날은 Cause I'll be with you oh. 오늘도 좋은 꿈만 꿨으면 좋겠어 baby